but it's Friday, which means it's now time for another edition of Tech Briefs, where myself, Greg Nibler, and Ken Young, the technology editor for Flipboard, try to bring you up to date with some of the biggest news in tech in about 10 minutes. And there's a lot to cover today. We even have some breaking news we're going to have here at the end of this segment. But to start off, Ken, hello.
Hey, Greg. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you as well. And let's get started here. Let's talk about the products first. We actually got some product releases this week, which is nice during all the turmoil that we've seen and all of the conventions and all the events that were canceled. These companies do still have products, and we have Apple leading it off right here with the iPhone SE, something that was rumored for a long time, coming in at $399. It's available for pre-order, and this is something that people were anticipating for quite some time.
Right, and the coronavirus pandemic is not going to stop tech companies from rolling out their products. And this is probably the first major smartphone to come out this year in the midst of COVID-19. And look, this is the second generation of the small budget-friendly iPhone. The first one came out in 2016, and now this one is coming out but it's very similar, but it packs the punch of what you get with the new basically with an iPhone 11, iPhone 8 to an iPhone 11. So it's pretty spot on, pretty modern. So obviously you get water resistance, you have wireless charging, you get a faster Apple's A13 processor, and all for just $399, starting price of $399. You can start pre-ordering it today, and it's what people want. You don't get this massive smartphone, these new phablets, and the price that you pay for them. You could get something very compact. Some people will like the compact phone. The original iPhone SE really did well in terms of the people's preference for the size, and so this is actually probably going to do pretty well. And if you want something that's modern, like the latest, but not all the bells and whistles, this is probably going to be a good iOS device for you.
Yeah, it's something, like you said, a lot of people have been anticipating this and wanting this, and it's nice that Apple is going back to this and having kind of a lower end for them model that's out, but still has pretty good processing power, an A13 chip in it. I mean, that's pretty great. So you've got that, the Apple iPhone SE. Going quickly through these, you also had OnePlus, which came out with theirs at the beginning of the week, OnePlus 8, OnePlus 8 Pro, which we've actually reviewed pretty well. Our own Andy Boxall here at Digital Trends reviewed it. He said it was fast, it had a really great battery life. And again, this is just kind of another entrance into the phone market and somebody else bringing these in, and they are going to be more widely available now. OnePlus has been around for a while, but not necessarily widely available, but they're forming some more partnerships, so you're going to see more of these phones getting out there as well.
Right, and it's interesting to know, as I was doing a little bit more research on the OnePlus 8, it turns out like right now they're already sold out. This device is already sold out, so that's kind of that has to be telling you something about this phone. And look, this is complete night and day between the OnePlus 8 and the iPhone. I mean, it's apples and oranges. One's iOS, one's Android, obviously. OnePlus 8 is all 5G supported, right? iPhone SE is not 5G. So but it's interesting. It depends on what carrier you have. In order to get the 5G. 5G for OnePlus 8, it will be only on Verizon if you're in the US. If you're in the US and you're on T-Mobile, you can only buy the OnePlus, not the OnePlus. The OnePlus 8, not the OnePlus 8 Pro. The OnePlus 8 Pro is the one with 5G is available on Verizon. It's very, very weird how it is, but I believe OnePlus 8 has an exclusive deal with Verizon. But you look at the specs of the OnePlus 8, and it's pretty spot on. You look at, I've read the reviews on Digital Trends and also on Flipboard. This is a fantastic looking device, like in terms of the cameras, in terms of the specs. Obviously, it's IP68 is water resistant, multiple colors. I have a Samsung S10, and I actually think that for the price of a OnePlus 8, this is something that I'm pretty interested, that I would want to try out. Especially, it's going to cost way less than the Samsung Galaxy S10 and the S20, and the cameras are, starting to get on par with each other. So this is something worth consideration.
And I think just that deal with Verizon will get into the hands of more people than it had been before. So I think that's good that we're going to be seeing that. And competition's always good for people, right? So OnePlus 8, Motorola also has an event coming up next week, so we'll find out more about their phones. But it's nice to see some product launches. Continuing on here to go through this and again bring everybody up to date as quick as we can. There was a lot of news this week about a pretty amazing team up. It's Google and Apple, like two of the biggest rivals in tech, teaming up together. And this is in order to help battle what's going on with the coronavirus and with COVID-19. We see a lot of companies working on this, but this is for what's called contact tracing. So essentially it's this. They're working together to make sure that they can have interoperability between their two operating systems to track via Bluetooth. Essentially, it would work like this. It's going to allow phones to be able to ping other phones around them, and with an app that would be developed by a local health company, it would notify where you were for, say, 14 days. Then if you were to come into contact with somebody or somebody was to be diagnosed with COVID-19, then they could actually send out a ping to anybody who was pinged by that person's phone to let you know that you may have come into contact with somebody who is infected. So the whole goal is to do that and reduce, the need for social distancing, the need for all the quarantine that we're going on. It's going to be coming out in May, but I think it's an interesting use case of just these two companies teaming up.
Right, and there's a few things to note about this. One, Google and Apple are not the only ones that are experimenting or trying or relying on contact tracing to do this. And MIT has one as well, and there's a bunch of developers that are starting to plan this. This is also a technology that's being embraced by multiple governments, multiple countries as well. Again, but also what's interesting to note is that with Google and Apple, there's a huge reach. I mean, there's billions of people that have either an iOS or an Android device,
right.
But this is only going to be
virtually everybody.
Virtually everybody, yes, and this is completely opt-in by voluntary. So in terms of individuals have to voluntarily share whether they've been diagnosed with COVID-19 or anything like that, and using Bluetooth, that's going to supposedly help ease any privacy concerns because they're not tracking your specific location. This is all going to be anonymized data that public health officials, right, not individual companies or anybody else, will have access. So if I happen to be near you, Greg, it's not going to tell me, hey, Greg has COVID-19. It's just going to tell me somebody that I've been near has this information. Has been diagnosed with this, and contact tracing is going to help to kind of track the spread of coronavirus, but it's not a cure-all. It's not something that's going to treat it and solve our problems. So there's more testing is obviously needed, and a vaccine is needed, but this is to help public health officials to really understand what the heck is going on with the coronavirus pandemic and make moves to either accelerate to further shelter in place or to take some other means.
Right. I mean, it can be extremely beneficial to be able to track this. And with Google and Apple being these two giant companies that are doing this, I think that certainly can speed things along with that. But we've got articles at Flipboard and digitaltrends.com, covering all of this that people can go take a look at. Continuing on here, I know we need to bounce through these pretty quick because we don't want to get our breaking news. Just when it comes to streaming entertainment, something we're all getting into right now, I'll just let everybody know this. Interesting development from Hollywood from the standpoint of Universal's Trolls World Tour, which made a digital debut. So it's the first one to release completely on digital video on demand, and it did pretty well. It did about $40 million, which is a pretty good start. To compare that, I think it was Avengers Age of Ultron. That one, I believe it was like 30 million when it debuted on video on demand, so this is even bigger than that. Granted, this is the first time. This doesn't have a theater run, but could be a sign of things to come when it comes to some of the big Hollywood production companies of how do they recoup some of their money without having theaters open. So there's that. And then the other thing here too, just to go through these quickly, is the launch of Peacock. Ken, have you started watching Peacock yet?
So it turns out, I have Comcast, and I've actually tried using the voice control to access Peacock, and it turns out that I can't get access to it. It's not available to me yet, which is weird. So Comcast and NBC have a deal. I'm pretty sure they're owned by Comcast owns NBC. And so Comcast subscribers, those with Xfinity, X1, or Flex, are supposed to have access to this. But apparently, when it's supposed to have debuted earlier this week, there's actually a delay of approximately 2 weeks, according to reports, for Comcast subscribers to actually have access to that. So when I tried it out yesterday, I got this error message on my TV saying, "Hey, check back later. It's not available to you yet." So I actually don't know, haven't had the firsthand impressions or experience using Peacock. I mean, it sounds interesting, but I can't honestly give you my take on whether it's good or not. I'm looking forward to the shows. Saved by the Bell. I saw the trailer for the new Saved by the Bell reboot. Okay, we'll see how that goes. I did enjoy it back in the day, but I don't know about reboots this time. But fan of watching all the Law and Order episodes that I can get and anything else on NBC. So we'll see. Maybe in a couple of weeks, we can come back and see. Hey, is this good? I'll talk about Peacock. You can give me your thoughts about Quibi. How about that?
Right. Okay. All right. Fair enough. We can do that exchange. I'm definitely on that. So Peacock eventually going to have 3 different tiers too for people to get access to it, and then The Office. Okay. Final thing here, just to make this announcement, and this is breaking news as of right this second. We knew that SpaceX was planning to send actual astronauts up to the International Space Station, and we do have. Dang it, I'm going to sneeze right in the middle of this. I was really trying to fight that. The breaking news is that they have set the launch date of May 27th, and that is when they're going to be actually setting up 3 different astronauts in the Crew Dragon spacecraft. I think it's awesome that they set the date. I think that's a bold date to set. I'm kind of surprised they didn't delay this, given everything else that is going on, but it seems like they're confident that this is going to be the time where the first time where astronauts will be set up on a private spacecraft to the International Space Station. Pretty huge development.
Right, and this is this shows that SpaceX is pretty far ahead compared to Blue Origin and all the other space companies that are out there. And so this is, we've talked about this many times already in terms of like SpaceX is sending people either to the International Space Station, they're trying to send people to Mars, or they're sending tourists out into orbit. But this is the first time, we've been talking about all these different tests that they've had with their rockets that will propel cargo into space, and then the rockets will safely land back on Earth. So, but this time, human beings are going to be on this vehicle, on this space vehicle. So, will this, fingers crossed that this turns out well. These are actual astronauts. I don't believe these are the tourists. So, but this is on SpaceX's Dragon rocket. So this is going to be a pretty momentous time, especially for the fact this is the first time in a decade that it's going to be launching from U.S. soil as opposed to be launching from Kazakhstan. And interesting to note, the timing is also coincidental because we had astronauts that safely landed back on Earth today that landed in Kazakhstan from the International Space Station.
Yeah, so 3 down today, and I think to correct what I said earlier, I believe it's 2 astronauts that are going up on this rocket, at least as far as the announcement that I'm seeing. But yeah, definitely going to be interesting. That's May 27th, so we'll have all kinds of more information coming out on that. Going to be a pretty exciting day when that does come around. And Ken, as always, I want to say thank you for joining us. Always fun to talk about this. There is so much going on, but stay safe, and I will talk to you next week.
Sounds good. See you then.